Given an ellipse equation, graph the ellipse. Label the vertices, covertices, and the foci. Here's the equation. We notice that it's not a parabola because it squares on both. We notice it's not a circle because there's different numbers here, the 9 and 16, that bend it away from being a circle. So it is an ellipse. And there's one more called the hyperbola, but we'll study that next. So for an ellipse, A is larger than B always, and A lies under the major axis direction variable. So here's the big number here of the two, 16 and 9, and it'll help us if we write it as a square, 4 squared and 3 squared. So we realize that 4 is the A and that it lies under the X, so that the major axis direction is in the X direction. And then for figuring out the foci, we know that this relationship holds for an ellipse, so that C is going to be the square root of 17 and B is 3 from here. So we have everything we need. So we can start to put these points in. It has 0, 0 as the center because it's x minus h, y minus k. We haven't gone over that yet for an ellipse, but it's going to work the same as for the parabola and the circle. hk center, so it's 0, 0. So that would be 0, 0 there. And then the major axis direction is in the x, so we're going to go 4 in the x, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 in the x direction this way. And then we're going to go up 3 in the y direction and down 3. And now we're going to fit this with a nice curve. And we draw our curve through there. And we have our ellipse. You can also verify it by taking the equation x squared over 4 squared. Actually, just return it back to 16 plus y squared over 9 equals 1, and say when x is plus or minus 4, y, let's see what y has to turn out to be. If x is plus or minus 4, then looking at this, that's going to be 16 over 16 plus y squared over 9 equals 1. So these cancel off, 1 and 1. So that means that y squared over 9 has to be equal 0, which means y has got to be 0. So that's working. That point there is 4 comma 0. This point here is negative 4 comma 0. Similarly, you could do the 9 by letting x equal 0, and if x equals 0 there, kind of knocked off, then you can see that y would have to be 3. Y would have to be 3. So x is 0, y is 3. X is 0, y is negative 3, and now we have to put the foci in. A square root of 7, which is approximately about 2.6. So here's 3, here's 2.6. The foci, of course, go on the major axis, and that's in the x direction this time. About 2.6 is about right there. 2.6 in the other direction, about right there. So we have our two foci. This one is at square root of 7 comma 0, and this one is at negative square root of 7, 0. That's foci 1, this one's foci 2. So there's all the label points. Now let's go down here. If you solve for y in the equation, you get this and this, and that's how you would do it in the calculator. And when you graph it, and you use zoom square, you have to do zoom square, because that's how you're going to get it to be equidistant here, so it looks like a correct ellipse.